Hello, everybody. Welcome back to That Spiritual Podcast with Marty and I. Today, we are going to be discussing a real buzz topic that you have probably heard so much. You may have some knowledge about it, you might not have any knowledge, and that is the topic of shadow work.
Yeah, a lot of people ask us about this, both of us, with the perception that we do or have done, and we both have shadow work. But really just wondering what it is, how you do it. People seem to come in with a preconceived notion. So a lot of times we work differently in the realms of shadow work. So for me, a lot of people will come looking for mother wound shadow work and inner child wounds, hurt, trauma. That sort of shadow work. So mine is quite intense, whereas you tend to build yours in on your retreats, don't you?
Retreats and grief work, and just my women's circles, really. So it's just as it comes. It's not specifically around a particular topic. It's what kind of comes up for you during that time. So it might be, like you said, childhood trauma. It might be something to do with your grief. It might be a trigger. It could just be, it's multiple things. Shadow work for me and how I work with it is a never-ending cycle of going into something, exploring it. I see shadow work as it's like an alchemy. So alchemy means to turn something to gold. Okay, so you're turning the dark to light. So shadow work, when I go into something, it's exploring that, it's allowing it to kind of almost flood with light in whatever way you do it. It can be through writing, meditating, clearing, like whatever it might be, right, which we can talk about in a minute. And then it's giving you some sense of peace around it, some sense of settledness around it, so you can move forward, right? But then that doesn't mean that shadow might not come back up again for you. It might not then take like an onion, like a whole nother layer where you're like, oh shit, now I've got to work on
shadow work
this.
is when we recognize that there's a problem. So normally it's a block, it's an old trauma, it's something that's holding you back.
Yeah.
And the way that you know that you've got shadow work, and it is a buzzword, isn't it? The way you know you've got shadow work to do is you've got a problem that you can't seem to conquer. So you always pick the same type of person, or you always come across money worries, or
same trouble relationship.
There's always the same problem occurs in a different flavor. Maybe it turns up in different shapes and sizes.
Same story.
But the pattern remains, that there is a problem that for whatever reason for you is insurmountable. And that's the point at which we go, okay, there's something happening behind the happening, either in your subconscious mind or in your energetic body, or in your past lineage. That means there's a shadow somewhere that we need. And the point of that, the purpose of it saying it, is to bring it to the light, like you say. Once you bring, and look at this in a normal context, once something is a problem and you bring it up for air, you bring it to the light, bring it to the known, bring it to this time, actually it has less power over you. So you are able to see it, and it's not as scary anymore because it's in the light rather than being dark and dingy. And I did say to Phebs once, when I do shadow work, I take people down into a metaphysical basement. And she's like, oh, why the basement? I was like, because it's dark. So we go down the steps and we go into the basement and we face everything in the dark. But then we bring it and take it back up to the light, dragging it back up the stairs, if you will, with help. And that's how I do shadow work, but that's massively intense, and I recognize it. But I also do subconscious blocks work with people that I work with one-to-one, and so that's as light level shadow work, but it's the same thing, isn't it?
Same thing, just different ways to do it. And like you said, some shadow work that you will do in your life on your journey will be huge, massive, ginormous. You'll need somebody there to almost hold you through it, which is what you and I both do with meditation retreats, various situations.
So many ways.
Right? Other things you'll be able to work through alone. You'll be able to just journal it out. It could be so simple as acknowledging the thing that you feel is a bit heavy, and that's enough to just kind of almost let it dust away. Like, not everything needs a huge song and dance, but some things do.
Yeah.
And not everything does. And that's the thing with shadow work. It's not all going to be, intense and scary and awful, but the times that it is,
about
it will
that
be.
onion thing as well, because shadow work it's rare, especially if it's deep-seated.
Mm.
It's rare that you'll just bring it up for air and go, thank goodness you've seen me, lovely, I'll be off now, see you later. You know, you will find it comes in waves.
Yeah.
And the amount of times I've been really peeved that I'm like, I've done this work, and suddenly I get a new variety of it. I'm like, I did this already, this is so rude, why are we here again? But the next layer has come up for air. So you've done the top level, but now we're on layer 2, and there might be 20 layers, you don't know until you start doing this work, and you recognize that actually this is a lifelong journey, to uncover your shadows, and you don't need to be intimidated by that. Settle in, you're in for the ride.
There's an acceptance that needs to come as well, that if you are on this healing journey, or you could see it as your kind of on your soul mission or your path or your spiritual path or spiritual discovery or whatever it might be, shadow park will be shadow park. We're going to the park of shadows. Shadow work will be a huge part of it, but it will become an everyday part of your life. Okay, so it's not a quick fix. It's not something that you do and you're just done and you're over it. You embody working with your shadows, right, when you're on this journey.
Well, of course, because we signed, you know, if you believe this, which we obviously both do, we signed a soul contract. And the only way we can get that knowledge, that wisdom, is by experience. That's why we came here. So there's no point being butthurt that you're getting your ass kicked, although I always am. This is outrageous. Why am I not loved and supported? But, you know, we are here to go through things. So rather than meeting it with why me, meet it with what next.
And
if I could give you one piece of advice, you know, I was victim mentality for a long time. So if you're in that space, I see you, I honor you. I've been there. It's a rough road, that though. It's much better to flip it and go, okay, I've got work to do, but everybody's got work to do. So rather than being offended or wounded or like, I couldn't possibly, I used to say things like, oh, I'm damaged. I can't have a relationship. I'm too damaged. And when I think back, I cringe now, because it was never about the relationship. It was always about just being aware there's work that needs to be done there. And we've all got work and it's different. And some people's shadows, unfortunately, are worse than other people's shadows. But there's no comparison. There's just you and the journey you're on, and just allowing that and running with it and being proud of yourself when you get through things 100%. As well.
And you go where you're triggered, right, as well. Like with shadows, you'll be triggered throughout life. Like it's a part of life. People are going to trigger you, things are going to trigger you, old memories will trigger you, situations will trigger you. It's multiple things, right, will trigger you. Explore that trigger. Like, why does it trigger you when somebody cancels their plans with you? Like, you know, like say someone genuinely was ill and was like, I'm sorry, I can't come tonight. You instantly feel like really like, oh, I'm personally offended. Like, oh, what have I done? Like, why does that trigger you? Like, explore that, because there's something in it. And it's about coming out, like Marti said, of that victim mode. We could so easily spend the whole of our life like, poor by me, it won't happen to me, I can't ever earn money because I've been raised and we've always struggled for money. Money's always been unachievable for me. I never have enough money. I'm not lovable because my dad left me when I was small and he left my mum. And then every relationship I have is really bad and really damaging. You, of course, can live out those stories repeatedly for the rest of your life if you choose. That is your prerogative. It is your life. It is your journey. But if you want to be on this spiritual path and dive in deep to your shadow parts, you're going to have to call yourself out on where you're playing victim. You're gonna, and I'm not saying that things aren't hard. Life's fucking hard. Like, it is really hard. It's really brutal.
Not flicking that to the love and light brigade, as I call them. No, namaste crew, that I call it. No, you know, it's not fake positivity.
No.
So, you know, what Phoebe's saying is recognize that there's a journey to do. Don't be hurt by that. Don't be wounded by that. It's you're allowed to be hurt. You're allowed to be sad. All of that, because you have to go through it.
Yeah. It's the same as grief. It's like the shadow work that I do with people in grief and for myself.
Yes, deep shadow work.
Yeah, deep shadow work. And we could sit here, the people that I work with choose to work with me. Obviously, I don't go around preaching like you all have to do this when you're grieving. Like, you can, you choose to do your work within grief if you want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you don't want to do it. That's fine. But it comes to that, again, that thing where you're like, am I going to stay in this box that grief put me in? Or am I going to move forward with my grief and embody my grief and make grief a part of me and work within my grief? So it's not saying like my grief doesn't exist, doesn't hurt. Of course it does. My grief is agonizingly painful for all the things that I've lost in my life and all the people
and
that I've
same
lost.
with the wounds that I carry, and the same with the wounds that you carry. You know, we've all got some shadows somewhere that we're going to have to learn to manage. Some of it is about management and some of it is about healing.
Exactly.
So don't presume you can heal everything.
No.
Don't presume that you can go and take a course and that will get you over your mother wound, your inner child wound, your grief work. You know, it's going to be a journey. Are you ready? Let's, you know, we ride at dawn. Let's go.
Ride at dawn, bitches. And it's as well knowing, like you said, not everything, you're not going to work through every single thing and feel like, I'm fine now, doesn't even bother me. Things will still hurt, things might still trigger you, they might come up again, but I see that as a chance to embody it. Like, I think that things that are huge, you can embody parts of them. They can be a reason why you stand the way you stand, or a reason why you move through your spiritual journey the way you move, because of your shadows, right?
Absolutely.
Rather than brushing it off.
Spiritual bypassing.
Yeah.
Which is trying to just go around it. And spiritual bypassing, there's a lot of spiritual practitioners out there who do operate this system. It's no good to you. It doesn't serve you, because you won't learn your lesson. You won't grow from it. You won't evolve from it. And I'm sorry, babies, you are here to have an evolutionary journey. That's your purpose on this world. You might think it's to provide a house for your kids, but it's here for your soul to evolve. And how are you going to do that if you don't have any experience? How are you going to know what's joyful if you don't have something that's less joyful? And so shadow work becomes an entire journey in and of itself, and should be part of what you're doing on this lifetime, on this earth plane.
100%.
So rather than being offended by it, it's just like, my shadow looks like this, my shadow is this shape, and it's not better or worse than anybody else, and I've got work to do. I see that, because we're looking all the time, right, for where we're triggered, where patterns reoccur, where we recreate the same thing. You can go across relationships, money, you know, the way we live day to day, even like how tidy I don't keep my house right now, is defaulting back to my childhood, where you know, I didn't grow up in a very tidy house, and I'm like, that's my first thing to go. I'm like, oh crap, I need to clean my house, because I don't want to live like that. That at a basic level is repetitive shadow work. You know, that's an acceptance level that I had that wasn't right. That doesn't mean I'm judging if your house is messy too. But do you see what I mean? It can be as little or as big, you know, as you want. But I think people expect, when they talk about shadow work, normally they've recognized they've got a problem, they've identified the cause of it, and they're like, I just want to fix it. And I get that so often. Do you? I just want to be okay. But that's not your journey. You can't evolve with that mentality. I'm really sorry. I would love that for you too. But you're not going to do a workbook and get past it like that. It's going to be building it, integrating is probably a better word, integrating your shadow in with your life, and then doing the work that heals the parts you can, until you find the next tool. Oftentimes you don't have all the knowledge,
and you're lifting the lid on something, right? And this is what you need to remember. And like Marti said, people are so wanting to have a quick fix. They will come and they will say, I've got this thing and it's a trauma or a trigger, I want to work for 45 minutes with you and it to be gone. You're opening a lid to something that is huge. It is multiply layered. It might be ancestral as well and carry through your whole bloodline, which is a whole nother bag. There is so much to it, and it becomes part of your everyday healing journey in life work. Like, shadow work becomes a part of your life journey, right?
You're a work in progress,
literally. So there's no quick fix with shadow work. It's not yes, it's a buzzword, but it's not like, oh yeah, I did my shadow work today, so like everything's great. Like, that's fake. Like, that's not true. Like, when
spiritual bypassing, and a lot of courses out there, you know, tell you, if you buy this course, you can heal your mother wound, or if you buy this course, you know, you'll never have a bad relationship again. I'm like, oh my god, that's so fake, because you have to recognize that you need to do the work. And some things are, like you said, some things are so easy, and you think they're gonna, like my money blocks were easy to solve. Once I recognized where the problems come from, I was like, oh, well, I just won't do that again. And every time I had that thought, I'd be like, no, not like that, dummy. Remember, we don't do that anymore. And just that repeat affirmations, which is, I just called it, don't do it like that, dummy. But I actually had an affirmation that sounded a bit more professional than that. Once I did that on repeat for a while, that resolved my money blocks. They were
Yeah.
quite easy to resolve, and I thought they would be really hard. So some of them you get a complete win, and some of them not so much.
No.
And that's okay, because you are constantly a beautiful work of art, work in progress. You are a unique soul. I feel like I'm mothering you now. You're a very unique soul.
She's gone into mother mode.
But, you know, recognize that you don't need, Rome wasn't built in a day, neither were you. You're here for a whole journey.
Yeah.
And it's okay for it to unfold, and it's okay for you to go back and be re-triggered and like, damn it, I thought I did that.
Yeah.
But it's come up with a different shape or a different flavor or a different person. You're like, okay, back to the grind then, because I've still got work to do.
Yeah.
Don't be intimidated by it, but also don't expect miracles.
Yeah.
Like, shadow work isn't a miracle healing. It's the start of a process and a practice that will take you a lifetime. And
a practice that goes hand in hand with other things. So if you're going to be working on some deep, heavy fucking shadows, you want to be armored up like with some other stuff. Like, you don't want to just go into like something really, really deep and just think that's going to be done in like a couple of days. You want to make sure you've got healing prepared for afterwards. You want to make sure you're held by people that can support you, like a community or a circle or a sisterhood. You want to make sure you've taken time out. Like, it's when you work on heavy stuff, you'll go into the pits of despair, and everything will feel dark, everything will be heavy, it will be intense, and you've got to know that you can pull yourself out of that. And that isn't going to happen unless you are prepared for it. So don't just walk into stuff and be like, right, I'm going to work on this really intense, and I won't say, you know, list to intense traumas. We all know what some of those could be. But don't just go into that really like naively. Prepare
I've had
yourself.
People that have asked me to help them, and I've said, you're not ready.
Yeah.
Your ability to bounce back, your bounce back game isn't strong enough.
Yeah.
So we need to work on your mindset first.
100%.
So that by the time we go into those shadow realms, as I call it, then you'll be able to come back from
Pull
that
yourself out,
and be okay, because otherwise I'm just knocking people down. And I often find that a lot of other practitioners, a lot of therapists actually do that. You know, they go, you start talking, you open all the wounds, and they're like, time's up, and you're like, no, I don't just, what am I going to do with this?
Round,
So you know, I'm very sensible about it, and I think you ought to be too. There's also times, and I don't know if you've had this, where I know there's a problem, but I don't actually know how to fix it. So I know there's a shadow there, but you know, the work that I've got, I found this when I started doing shadow work. I had Reiki, which was brilliant. Level 2 teaches you to send Reiki back into past. So I could send Reiki back through my lineage, and I could send Reiki back through the timelines of my life. Didn't change anything that had happened, but it changed my perception of it in the here and now, because I went and did healing on it. And that was great. And I was like, this is great. But it wasn't doing everything. And then I learned about tapping, and I was like, okay, this does another part of it. But I hadn't known that when I started Reiki, because Reiki was my entry level. And then I started working with goddesses. I was like, oh, this does the deeper stuff. But there's other ways to do all of these things. Of course, there are so many ways. But at times of my journey, I didn't know that there was a tool that I didn't have yet. When I had the tool, I was like, that's the one that's going to do that part. I get it now. And just recognizing that you're evolving all the time.
Literally,
and stuff will come to you when you're ready. Not trying to rush that. Just because you've recognized, you know, that daddy was unkind doesn't mean you're going to be able to resolve it today.
100%. I agree. 100%. Spiritual toolkit. You need one if you're going to go into the big shadows.
And then just like you say, create time afterwards. Don't go and do a big piece of work and then be having to go and pick your kids up from school, or you know, about to hit a family party or get married next week. Think I might try and do that mother wound before I get there. Be sensible, guys, right? When I teach people this, I'm like, go back for 5-10 minutes at a time where there's 2 or 3 days afterwards where you have time to operate that bounce back game, as I call it. You know, to bring yourself energetically, vibrationally, frequency back to where you started, because it does drop your frequency to do that work.
And you've got to build it back up, and you've got to know how, or have someone to help you do that.
Hopefully that makes sense, because I don't want to just say, go into the shadows, it's going to be great, you're going to have a great time. You might just breeze through it and be like, winning, but you might not. And that's all right too.
Things you will and things you won't, and that's, again, it's like life. Some things will be easy, some things will be hard, you just don't know. So
cool. That's shadow work from us. Hopefully we'll see you on the next round of podcasts. Take care, guys.
Bye, guys. Take care. you.